Hello, everybody, and welcome to Running Tales. This is the podcast where we tell the extraordinary stories of everyday runners. As you'll probably know by now, my name's Craig, and today we're going to be talking to Nikki Lilley, an incredible runner and triathlete who's overcome cancer to chase new goals. So, regular listeners might remember we spoke to a lady called Delaney Dawson a while back, for whom running became part of her recovery from breast cancer. And you can check up on Delaney's story by visiting our website, runningtales.co.uk. Click the podcast tab there to listen to her story, or have a read of it on our Substack newsletter, runningtales.substack.com. A really important part of Delaney's recovery was down to the support she received from an organisation called 5K Your Way. It's a brilliant group. They meet up once a month at parkrun, and everyone is encouraged to walk, run, or volunteer, and it really helps people to progress on their cancer journey or their journey to recovery from cancer. Now, 5K Your Way has also been a substantial part of Nikki's recovery. She's gone from surgery and chemotherapy to completing her first marathon. So, folks, without further ado, let's welcome Nikki to the Running Tales podcast. Hey, Nikki, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for joining me today. And
My pleasure.
we'll explore your journey, but perhaps let's start off with that last bit I mentioned there, which is completing your first marathon. That's always pretty sensational for anybody, I think. So tell us all about that. Where was it, and how did you get on?
I did my first marathon at Milton Keynes. So I think that was the beginning of May last year.
Yeah.
Last year? This year. Yes, this year. And had a surgery to reverse my stoma last August. So after the recovery of that, I wanted something to kind of get my teeth stuck into, but something that just involved running, because running for me was just such a good release, good for my brain. I really enjoyed it. And it felt like a marathon, weirdly, was going to be like an easier option
Yeah.
than throwing myself into, I don't know, shorter stuff, which felt more like painful. Um, but once I got going, I was quite relaxed about it. And I thought to myself, oh, I don't need to worry about times or anything like that. But the more I got into it, the old me started creeping back in. And then I found myself doing sort of a 12-week program based around like a London Marathon program. And I thought I will aim for 3.5 hours. Never thinking that was going to be something I could get. I just thought it'd be have a good base, something to work towards. And I loosely followed a plan, which was for the 12 weeks. And I loved it, absolutely loved it. And it was great. And on the day, I ran 3 hours, 30 minutes, and 16 seconds.
Oh, that's
So,
amazing. Well done. That's
yeah,
just a great time under any
yeah.
circumstances.
I was very, very happy. I sort of got to the start line and I thought I felt so overwhelmed. I felt so just grateful to be there. It sounds really cheesy, but I did. I just felt so grateful to be there. I spoke to a lady on the line and sort of half pulled out my story, really, because I was just quite overwhelmed by being there. And I just thought, do you know what? Whatever happens, I'm just going to be so happy. I just want to get to the end. Um, but the more the race went on, the more confidence I grew, like throughout the whole race. It was hard, very,
Yeah.
very difficult. I did have a few moments that were quite difficult. Um, but my main aim was to finish. But the confidence grew the more I looked at my watch, and the times were looking pretty good. And
Yeah.
yeah, and then I achieved what I went for. I sort of aimed, I said to myself, 3 hours 30 something would be great, because I'd like to get the London good for age time,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, which I knew was, I think it was 3:46.
Oh, so you
Um, I,
smashed that.
yeah, but I think you need to be a good chunk underneath it
Mm,
to get in.
yeah.
Obviously, it's
Yeah.
the fastest first, isn't it? So I just thought, that'll be like a nice sub aim for this whole like experience. But yeah, so to cross the line in the time I did, I was over the moon. People were quite like, did you want to get under the 3:30? But I honestly I didn't care. I really didn't care. I was just so happy. Like I looked at my watch and I was just like, what?
Yeah. And it's a deceptive little course, Milton Keynes. It was actually my
Yeah.
first marathon as well. I did nothing like your time. I was just under 5 hours actually. Um, But yeah, it's sort of predominantly flat, and it seems very flat, and all those lovely hard roads in MK, and you just have to navigate a few roundabouts. But there's also the constant up and downs of the underpasses that sort
Yeah,
of really
yeah.
take it out of you over those 26.2 miles, don't they?
It was quite twisty as well, I thought. Like, but
Yeah.
I think that's what kept it interesting for me, really. I think it was a good one for me. It was busy all the way round. There was plenty
Mm.
of people around. And it was, yeah, it wasn't too boring, but I did start off a bit fast. I got a bit overexcited, I think. So I was just, but then I sort of in my head was thinking, oh, I'm just banking a bit of time so
Yeah.
that I've got some time at the end in case I start, losing it. Because I've heard all the stories and I've watched London Marathon where people have got jelly legs and they're dragged across the line. And I just
Yeah.
didn't want to be that person. So the last sort of 5K, I was quite cautious because I just wanted to make sure I could complete it really. Um, but
Did you
yeah,
finish in the
absolutely great day.
stadium? Did you finish in?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a good finish,
yeah.
that one.
Yeah, it just come out of nowhere. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
I thought, and I'm sure, like I know your GPS can be slightly off and with such a distance, but all of a sudden it was just there, and I was like, oh, it's the finish. Oh, like, but yeah, it was a really great experience. Yeah, and I can, got the usual runner's high at the end. Couldn't stop talking to everybody.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Well, I do want to talk about, some of the other major parts of your story that I touched on in that intro, but let's sort of rewind from kind of the end there to all the way back to the start. And how did you sort of first get into running? Because I think you did quite a lot of running, didn't you, when you were at first when you were younger at school, perhaps?
Yes. So I ran when I was from between the ages of sort of 13, 14, and just for I was 17 when I gave up. But I did sort of compete quite highly. So I ran
Mm.
for England a couple of times in cross country. And I was sort of become national champion at 3,000 meters on the track when I was younger. So I did have running pedigree,
Yeah,
but I sort of quit running when I was 17. It was very typically my friends were having fun and I wasn't really. And I started to miss that and I just quit. And then I didn't pick, and then I had children, 5 children. And I really didn't pick running up again until I was in before I started triathlon when I was like 38. I dipped in and out of keeping myself fit, but nothing substantial, nothing more than maybe going to the gym. Um, yeah, so then I picked it back up in when I was 38, and then I joined a triathlon club, Medway
yeah,
Tri, and do you know it was the best thing I'd done. It was just amazing, such a great community, and I just found that passion again for sport and keeping fit and healthy, and yeah, it was a really positive like turning point in my life, really. Um, and met such a great people around me, like-minded people. I think sometimes as you get older you then find your people a bit because you've got
yeah,
had all those experiences through life, and then you're choosing to do this stuff. You're not really for any more gain than what your personal goals are and things. So yeah, and then I found triathlon, and that was the beginning and the end of my social life, and it just took over, but in a great way. And
yeah,
yeah, I never thought for 1 second I'd end up being competitive again. It wasn't on my radar at the beginning, but it became quickly like became apparent that that doesn't leave really, and I think that
yeah,
natural ability was still there, and the way I am, I'm quite naturally competitive. So yeah, I started just doing these times, and people would be like, "Oh, I reckon you might be able to run, quite fast," and I think that just gave me the push, and um, yeah, so then I ended up just doing yeah, training like a crazy woman, really. Like people on the outside are like, "Oh my goodness, what's happened to Nikki?"
And just looking back on some of that running at school, obviously to, as you say, an extremely high level. Do you ever, I mean, you're not going to regret your family life and
No,
having
no.
children, but do you sort of regret not continuing with the running then, and perhaps who knows where it might have led you in terms of even a career or whatever?
I think it makes you have that thought.
Yeah,
It does make you think, oh, I mean, this the sort of standard I managed to get to pre-cancer, I'd say, was reasonably high. I was running some pretty quick times for a 40-year-old woman,
Hmm.
and things like that. So I think, would I have been able to get myself into a really high standard as a young adult? Probably, but I always say that the mental side of things is just as important as the physical side. And I
Hmm.
think sometimes that is the difference between elite athletes and other
Yeah.
people, because I could have had that natural ability, but I obviously didn't have the mental ability at that time to be that athlete. So I think otherwise there'd be so many more, wouldn't there? Be like
Yeah.
incredible athletes. It's just, but yeah, so I have thought about it, but
I
I don't
wonder.
regret anything.
I wonder as well whether, and obviously you can tell me whether this is right or wrong, or if I'm just going off on one really. But you mentioned that when you stop doing, and obviously there's a difference between being 17 and being 38 as well. But when you stopped doing it, you were kind of bored of it. Probably because you're having a lot of training. It was sounded like it was almost becoming work, and you wanted to go and off and do things with your friends.
Yeah,
And then when you were 38, the first thing you mentioned before you said you started to get to a higher level was I was really enjoying it. And I wonder if
yeah,
that's the difference, the enjoyment versus that it feels like hard work here, it feels like a job.
yeah. I felt so much pressure
Mm,
when I was younger, and I didn't enjoy that. And I really didn't. I always enjoyed the social side of sport, just as I do now. So when I was younger, and we'd all go on the coach, and we go to the athletics meetings, that'd be great. But I just started to not be able to handle the pressure of expectation,
yeah.
and I think that was the make or break for me. And my friends around me were just out doing their own thing, and I just started to feel like I wasn't having fun anymore. And I'm really a big advocate for that. Like,
Yeah.
as an adult, I do this because, and all the sport I'm doing now, I do it because I want to and I enjoy it. And I think as soon as that is is changing or changes, then that's not the right thing to be doing. Why do something that's going to make you unhappy?
Mm.
So but you don't have that kind of mind when you're a child, do you? You
No.
just, yeah. So
I wonder whether, and again, this might not really necessarily be a question you can answer. I mean, unless you're going to tell me you are. I don't think you've not been a top level coach or anything like that. But I wonder sometimes if coaches need to think a bit more about making sure their athletes are enjoying the sport still, are still
yeah,
enjoying their running rather than, you
yeah,
know, making it like a job.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably never changed. There's always be parents that are pushy, and there'll
Yeah.
always be coaches that are pushy, probably. There's a little bit more information out there now, isn't there? That so children and parents might be a bit more aware of what they should and shouldn't be doing, maybe. But I don't think that'll ever be gone. But there'll always be pushy parents, and that's that. I think then, like when you're a child, you're doing something for someone else, maybe, rather than for yourself.
Yeah.
And I can just do it for myself now. I like to do it to show my children as well. It doesn't mean they necessarily have to do sport, but it's just good to have something that you're passionate about or that you enjoy doing, and they get to see me do that, and the successes I've had, and the places I've got to go, and things like that. So, yeah, it's good for them too. Not that any of them have taken up sport.
Oh, really?
No, no, not at all.
Well, maybe they will as they get older as well.
Well, the closest I've got is my son, who's 17. He goes to the gym a lot, but
Yeah.
that's as close as we get.
So with the triathlon, what kind of levels did you manage to reach with that? I mean, did you do an Ironman or anything like that, or a half Ironman, or I don't know.
I started doing sprint and Olympic distance, so standard
Okay.
distance.
Yeah,
And that was where I was mainly training for the first few years. And I got up to sort of the best in the world class level, one of the best in the world, at age group level.
yeah,
So that's in my age group. So I was like British champion and things like that in my age group, and be one of the best in the world in my age group. So that's kind of the standard I got to there. And then I did a half Ironman in France, and I came second overall in that. So I just started to go into that sort of side of stuff.
Yeah.
But I had done a standard distance in Abu Dhabi just before I got a few
Yeah.
months before I found out I was unwell, and I came second in the world in that. So that's where I'd got to, and I was just starting to do more half distances before I got unwell. So I think about 3 weeks before I found out I had cancer, I did a European qualifier down in Eastbourne,
Yeah.
and I won that. But I had already started to feel quite poorly before I did that, so I knew something was wrong at that point, but I didn't know what it was.
Mm.
So they're the levels I was at, and my running was good. I was, competing, not right at the top at the running because I was dedicating to three sports, but I was competitive in my age group in the running sort of community as well. So yeah,
It's interesting what you're saying about still being able to kind of put in those performances as you were starting to get ill. It reminds me of a conversation I had a while ago with a chap called Tony Collier who was diagnosed with cancer as well, and he was doing ultra marathons and all sorts of distances, and I can't remember what he did now. It might even have been the Marathon des Sables, something really out there.
bonkers.
Yeah, yeah, something bonkers. And but yeah, and then suddenly he felt not perfect, went to the doctor and got this diagnosis, and it sounds like unfortunately that's what happened to you as well. That it must have been an incredible shock to get that. I mean, it always is, I'm sure, but when you were so fit and healthy and doing these amazing things.
Yeah, I mean, so I had bowel cancer, so I did have a symptom. I had some bleeding, so I had known of that, but I had sort of dismissed it a little bit and put it to one side as which is why I shared quite a lot about it as well, actually. But I had done a 50-mile race with my friend, ultra run. We did a 50-mile together up in Chester,
Yeah.
and then I'd done a couple of other really long runs. But I think because I knew my body very well, and like I was very tired for me, and quite often people around me would be like, "Oh, well, you do a lot." And I'd be like, "Yeah, but just I've done a lot for a while and this just feels different." I felt tired, and I would go out and do sort of a 8, 9, 10K run, and I would feel really lethargic. And so I knew there was something wrong. I did not think it was cancer. But obviously I had the bleeding, and I was feeling quite tired. And then they told me my iron was low, which is another indicator as well.
Mm.
Um, so when I found out, I had a colonoscopy, and they told me there and then. Um, yeah, it was complete disbelief really, because I was quite young for the type of cancer I had, very fit and healthy.
Mm.
So I wasn't stereotypically what in the tick boxes for it
Yeah.
really. So yeah, so that's why I shared quite a lot. I felt a little bit of responsibility, not like I should, because if I don't, it's bad, but I felt a little bit like I should share this because I am young, fit and healthy, and people around me were equally as shocked because they were like, what, like, what, Nikki, how can that be, sort of thing. And I think it made a lot of people have a little think, really. I'm like, oh, okay, if this can happen to someone, we look at who's so fit and healthy, and then it can happen to anyone, and that is it. There is no other explanation for it. The doctors said to me, my nurse, she she actually said, it's one of those things. And I just thought, well, it's a terrible thing to hear,
Mm.
but there was no other way for them to explain it. There was no obvious like hereditary markers and things like that. So for them, they were just like, it's unfortunately one of those things.
And I suppose in terms of talking to anybody out there who might be feeling, they might not have cancer, they probably haven't got cancer, but they
Yeah, no,
feel a
it's
little
right.
bit under the weather. They're powering through. doing their running or their cycling and swimming or whatever they're doing, or just everyday life, what would your message be to them, I suppose, in terms of not ignoring symptoms potentially or making sure you get things checked out?
I think we've got such a responsibility for our own health, like I did have signs many months before I finally started to get them, taking them serious. And
Mm.
I think if I had gone, I would still have had cancer, but a lot of the stuff that had happened may not have happened, I may not have ended up with a stoma. I may not have had to have chemotherapy, things like that. So get things checked out. That is what the doctors are there for. And I know I am the type of person who's a bit like, oh, I don't want to make a fuss because it's probably nothing. But actually, that's what they want to tell you. Like
Yeah.
my doctor did not want to tell me that, she suspects cancer, put me on the cancer pathway. She obviously doesn't want to tell me that, but that was her fear. But they want to say, oh no, there's nothing to worry about, or we'll get you checked out. Because it is easy to do. Like,
Mm.
they got me in within a few weeks, and still that, even though if I'd have found it earlier, I might not have had to have some of the treatment I had any later, and it could have been worse again. So, you know,
Well, that's part of the with cancer, isn't it? The earlier you can get it, the better. And you do
yeah,
sometimes hear these really, really sad stories of people who don't get diagnosed till too late
yeah.
and could have
And
been okay otherwise.
well, the thing is with things like with bowel cancer, it is a bit of a silent killer, like it, because
Yeah.
it will grow over many years for some people. But mine was an aggressive form, so it was growing quickly. So my one of the doctors told me that they think it was growing over about 9 months. So it's not actually a very long time. So the space for the difference between me finding out then and say a month later could have been a very different story. So yeah, it really is so important just to go and get yourself checked out, because it probably is nothing. I have had people around me that have gone to get themselves checked out, or they will say to me, "Oh, I'm going to have a colonoscopy," and because they want to say, what happens, blah blah blah. And it is nothing. It
Yeah.
comes back, it's absolutely fine, and that's happened several times. So it is more likely to come back fine. But I am proof that it can happen. So it's you've got to take responsibility for that.
And when you got the news, what was the initial diagnosis? Was it what, you know, did they sort of say, well, we've got this treatment path, and I suppose at that point all sorts of things are going through your head, aren't they?
Well, the day that I found out, because it's weird because I kind of thought it doesn't happen quite like I thought it would. I went in to have a colonoscopy and I thought if they found something, they would probably take it away, look at it, and then they'd tell you. But my cancer was quite obvious, so he knew straight away. So when I went into a room with a nurse, it was very like the movies, a little bit like some
Yeah.
doctor in front of me tells me they found something and it's cancer. And at that moment, I think I was just nodding. I didn't, and it's only when I looked at my sister and she was crying that I thought, oh, hang on a minute, sorry.
You're talking about
And
me.
sorry, what was that you said? And then he said, I know from all my years' experience that this is cancer.
Hmm.
So he didn't really say too much more because they needed to send it away and work out what they were going to do, how far along I was, what stage cancer it was and things like that. So, and then I needed a CT scan, MRI, and everything just snowballed very quickly. And within a couple of weeks, they had told that I went back to them after all the scans and they'd got all the information together. And they said, it's stage 3. We're going to give you an operation. So this was Friday. My operation was on Tuesday. They're like, we're going to have an operation. It was 6 centimeters rectal carcinoma. Um, and yes, I had surgery, and they said there's a 50-50 chance you'll have a stoma. Um, and then after that, we'll let you recover, and then you'll have chemotherapy. So
Yeah.
I knew that much, but it was such a weird place to be that I don't think there's like enough time for anything to settle in, shock or anything. I think you're in a fight. then. So you're just in this fight and flight mode, I think. So you're just constantly on a battle to survive. And it allows you to be stronger than I think you realize you can be
Yeah.
until, that part of it, even though it was a lot more painful and there's a lot more hard moments like that, you're, I was a lot more, I was strong, actually. I felt strong.
Yeah. Oh, so I think I lost you for a second, but I
Yeah,
think
no,
you're back
sorry.
now.
I am.
Yeah, that's okay. The internet doing its thing. I was just going to say, sometimes these things are a little bit too simple in terms of like you add one and one and make five sort of thing. But I wonder whether some of the hard experiences you'd gone through in terms of taking on those sprint triathlons and longer triathlons kind of helped you when you were in this other journey that
Yeah. Oh, I think I definitely feel like my personality probably helped me
yeah.
because and because of sport, I'm quite competitive. I like being busy. And also, I was very fit and healthy before I went into it.
Hmm.
So I was, the fittest I've been really, up and up and up. I was constantly getting fitter. So it got me through so much. It put me in a really good stead for operations, chemotherapy. My body was very healthy and fit. And obviously, my mind is quite trained to be doing that sort of hard things. So
Yeah.
and I gave myself little like things, challenges, like just to keep myself ticking, really. I was, if throughout chemotherapy, I was on 2 week cycles. So I used to go into the hospital for like half a day, have one drug, and then I would go home with a pump which had chemotherapy in, which went through a PICC line. So I'd have that for 48 hours at home. And then the cycle went like that for every 2 weeks. And in that time, I decided that I would do a 5K on the day of my chemotherapy. So I didn't run the 5Ks because I got progressively more unwell. So I would walk run them. And gradually more and more people would come and join me. So it would be like a little bit of me. I would
Yeah.
be getting back to that me again just before I'd go back into another cycle, on the day where you felt the best, and then I would get all my friends from the club mainly, and they would come along and join me for my 5K walk run. And so I just gave myself those little pockets of who I was,
Hmm.
surrounded myself by the people that, looked after me really. That I was very, very lucky having that sporting family. Not only did I have my friends and family, but I had this huge community of people that helped me along the way as well. So I
Yeah.
felt quite lucky and blessed really throughout most of it, even though it was very difficult and quite painful in moments. I felt overall, I just felt so grateful.
And did having that community around you and being able to achieve those things you were doing, even if it was inverted commas only 5K compared to what you were doing before and you were walking and so on, did that make you feel, do you know what? Things are really, really hard at the moment, but I will be able to do these things again in the future.
Yeah, I don't think I ever thought I wouldn't.
Hmm.
I don't think I did. I mean, I had moments obviously where it was a very scary experience, but only really when you take a breath to think about it properly. And I think in that whole time of those cycles of chemo and recoveries from surgery, I had a stoma that I was dealing with as well, and learning to adjust to life with that. And I was using social media quite a lot. So I just kept myself so busy, and I didn't really allow myself to have much time to let the real scary fears creep in. Um, so yeah, I think I thought I would get back to it. I don't think I allowed myself to think that this will never. I was never sure what I would get back to, and now I still
Yeah.
don't know now. I still don't know, but you know, that's the fun of it, isn't it? I'm here, I'm alive, like I get to give it all a go. And I've wiped all my PBs clear. I'm having post-cancer PBs. That is it. All of my stuff is, I'm proud of loads of things that I do now. If I go and swim, the longest I've swum since everything begun, I'm proud of that. Or I go and do my
Yeah.
longest run or my fastest run. It's all new now. So
Yeah. Do you know what? That's really interesting. I had it was about 3.5 years ago now. I had a episode of something called pericarditis, which is it's a weird heart issue. But anyway, that kind of put me back 7 months of not being able to do anything, nothing like cancer or anything like that. But I had exactly the same thing when I started again. It was like, oh, I've run a mile. Well, that's a PB for the
yeah,
mile. I've done
yeah,
3 miles, 4 miles. That's the longest I've ever run post
yeah.
pericarditis. And yeah, I that really kept me going for the first sort of 6 months to a year afterwards. And actually, I've ended up being fitter and faster and doing longer distances than I ever did before it. So it kind
Yeah.
of like, yeah, sparked a whole new thing really. So it's really interesting how that can
I
work.
I think it's because that is achieving things, isn't it? So I
Mm,
think if your brain is wired to, when we do training, most of us want to achieve something, whatever that is. Look, people who are doing couch to 5K, the aim is to get to that 5K, or each week they run a little bit further. So we all have those sort of goals, and I think when something big happens, it's still good to have those goals and aims, and
mm.
it's what drives us. Well, it drives me on, and now I'm probably really annoying because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've just run the furthest I've run for ages. And then I went and did a marathon, so that's ruined that for me now.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I have booked my first Ironman for next year, so that's
Oh,
my that is my comeback race. My comeback um triathlon will be Ironman Lanzarote next year, so
oh,
I know
super.
picked a pretty epic one as well, so I'm excited for that. So that's what I'm training for now, really, just getting myself back into it all properly.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, that's so exciting. And what a thing to be able to sort of look forward to and
Yeah.
train towards. I wanted to ask you, Nikki, of course, because that's one of the main reasons why we're chatting today. What stage of this journey did parkrun and 5K your way come into things?
Well, when I was going through, I mean, I did the local park run every now and then anyway, but we used to train with the club as well on that day, so we didn't get to do it loads. But we would train there maybe every other month or so, go and do the 5K. But throughout my treatment, I found myself less able to do everything. So I would just go and watch.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's such a great community. And I find it actually so inspiring just watching people walk, people with their dog, with their kids, with their buggies. And it's such a nice community. And so I started to go along with a few of my friends that weren't from sport necessarily. And they started to really enjoy it. Some of my children would come in and really enjoying it, and we'd go and get a coffee and cake afterwards. So it became my little Saturday thing, and it was so amazing, and I absolutely loved it. And then I had obviously had another surgery, so it became important again. I was going along, I'd go and walk maybe, then I was walk running. And then one of my friends from the triathlon club, Jenny, she came up to me and asked me if I wanted to maybe get a group started again at the Great Lions Park Run. And I'd already looked at it weirdly enough because I thought, why isn't there one there? Because there is one closer to us, and I think they used to be one at the Great Lions. And I just thought, why isn't there one there? There should be one there. So when she came to me, I was like, oh yes, I'm definitely in. I'd love to do that. So we started last September, and oh yeah, I feel so passionate about it. I absolutely love it. I've met some amazing people. Cancer is an awful way to meet just such great people, and of all different, stages in their cancer or treatment, or they might be supporting someone, or this might even be their first time trying to run and things like that. So yeah, it's great. I absolutely love it. And now I'm always there.
Yeah.
So
We've touched on it already in your own journey, I think, but and also a little bit there. But how important is it to people turning up, fighting one of the biggest things they're ever going to be taking on in their life, and then having this bit of community, this bit of something to achieve, even if that is simply volunteering and helping out,
Yeah.
being part of something.
Well, I think sometimes even the simplest bit is just being outside sometimes is
Mm.
just such a great boost for us anyway, just a natural boost for us. And then to be surrounded by people, some, like-minded people in the same way that you join any community, really. I think, just to sometimes be able to offload or someone to understand perhaps where you're coming from. Or, you say, I remember one of the first conversations I had with somebody, and it was like about just a very simple symptom that I'd had. And she's like, oh, yeah, I'd had that as well. And it was just a bit of like this little bit of warmth inside because someone that completely understands where you're coming from. Um, yeah, it's so important. Getting outside, exercise, community. I mean, and parkrun is that as well, isn't it? In
Yeah.
itself. So it makes absolute sense to have like 5K your way there. Another little blue community, which I like to call it.
Yeah, I've spoken to some people who've been involved in 5K Your Way, and they kind of say both that it's really good in being able to talk to people who've been through the same things, had the same symptoms, and it's also fantastic to be in a group with people who will talk to you about other things other than
Yeah,
having
yeah.
cancer all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And laugh about stuff that
Yeah.
other people are probably too scared to laugh about, and it's always a happy occasion, and it really is. We've had tears, but it's always happy, and cake is involved, so that helps as well. But yeah, it's a great, great community. And I'm glad that I found it. It gave me a really good sort of sense of like just something I was giving back really for a while, and I needed the community as well, like more than
Mm.
that, I was
Yeah.
going through recovery myself, and I really needed those people around me as well. And like you said, we didn't always talk about cancer, we just sort of laugh about stuff, and but you can, and these people will understand. So yeah, it's a great thing.
Brilliant. And just, I suppose, I mean, we've kind of assumed that everyone knows exactly what 5K Your Way is, and I will make sure I put it in the show notes as well. But for anyone sort of going, oh, I'm not exactly sure what that is and how I get involved, what do they sort of need to do to become a part of this community?
Well, you can go on to 5K Your Way and you can type in your area and it will show you where all of the groups are around you. Um, all of them, well, I'm not going to say all because I don't 100% know, but most of them will have a Facebook group as well,
Mm.
and ambassadors like myself who you can contact who will give you all the information. But it's so relaxed. It is walk, run, jog, cheer. I'm like, it is for everybody. You don't have to. The park run we're at, it's 2 loops. Some people do one, they might walk that one loop. So it isn't, it's called 5K Your Way, but it isn't, you have to complete this 5K. It's very much down to what you want to do. I mean, we've got people who will just come along, pop the little chair up, watch everyone, and you're still getting such a good feeling from that, just sitting and watching, cheering, yeah, and being one of the park run volunteers, things like that. So yeah, so I'd say go online, find out where your local group is, and then maybe find a Facebook group to contact them directly. Um, and that someone's always, always going to help you and direct you in the right direction. So
Cool. And that's one of the things I really like about it, actually. I mean, it's kind of intrinsic and part of park run, but when it comes to 5K Your Way, that idea of just do one of the two laps, just do half of the
yeah,
first lap, but it's really, really embedded. It's really central to
yeah,
the whole thing, isn't it?
yeah, it is 5K your way. And if you decide it's not a whole 5K, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
So it really is. And, as there's always going to be someone there as well. So if you wanted to walk, you don't want to walk on your own, someone is always going to be there to walk with you. So it really is, and that actually makes it for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Obviously that was a massive part of your recovery, but there would have been plenty of other parts of it as well. How has the recovery gone? I'm guessing now with a marathon behind you and so on,
Yeah.
that the all clear has been achieved, and
Yep.
everything is progressing. But it does sometimes take a little while to get back to normal, I suppose.
Yeah. It has taken a long time actually. Um, I think when I came out of treatment, um, the world just didn't seem like a normal place anymore to me. And I wrote a lot of things down in my notes in my phone, which I hope no one ever reads. But because I just wanted, I was so glad I did, because when I look back, I can see just how much improvement I've made. And I don't necessarily mean physically, which obviously that is part of it, but mentally, because when I finished treatment, it was really difficult. And I really couldn't see the wood for the trees in the sense of making sense of what I was meant to do. Like, what my life has been turned upside down. I don't feel like myself anymore. And I not really know how to start again. Um, but it does progressively get easier. Did have counselling with Macmillan, which was a really great support for me as well. And I'm a massive advocate for that as well. If you can get the support or you feel like you need it, you should definitely go and get it. It helped me so much. And involving myself in other groups like 5K Your Way, and slowly, with alongside fitness and being much healthier and stronger, I've started to feel more like myself. I still have some issues left over from chemotherapy, and things like that do affect me, but I am fit, strong, healthy. I'm here, and and it sounds really cheesy, but I'm really not going to let anything stop me. I want to do these things, and I will. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to go and win everything, but I will go out and do the stuff that I really want to do because I want to do them. And they kind of saved my life in the same sense, really. This stuff kept me going and kept me sane. So yeah, I'm in a much, much happier, much better place physically and mentally now. But it does take a long time. It really
Yeah.
does. And it's still difficult. There's still difficult moments, when you've got tests and scans. It's still difficult, but it is better than it was. So that's how I look at it. There's improvement all the time.
Mm. And I'm always slightly hesitant to sort of give running too much power in these things, because sometimes people can think it solves every illness or whatever on its own, and obviously that's not true. And you mentioned a lot of other things there that helped you too. But how important was running as part of that journey that you've just talked about?
Oh, it it still is the
Mm.
biggest part of my journey. Um, I ran and cried. I ran in the rain on purpose just because it made me feel so great. And it just, for me, it was very important, and it still is. My family all know that. My friends know that. Um, and I still use it to this day. If I, I know the difference between not wanting to run and knowing I need to go and have a run sometimes. I think, oh, I need to clear my mind a little bit. And yeah, so it's a really big part of my life since I found it again, and then obviously going through everything with cancer. It's been a lifeline really for me. So it is annoying to people, but it does help me.
Well, that's what we all do. We like to annoy people with our
I
running
like
and our new trainers, and
I like to bore people.
you're on a running podcast, so you're in good company here. How would you compare finishing that MK marathon after what you've been through with all of the successes you'd had before, both in triathlon and as a successful runner at school?
Oh, I'm so proud of so much stuff that I've done. Um, but that one, I'm, that's going to be the most important thing I've done, I think.
Hmm.
I really needed even the training for it. It gave me such direction, and it just made me really feel like I was being me again. And when I was on that start line and I was talking to this lady, and she was just so lovely. She was like, "Oh no, that's amazing!" And but I was just buzzing. I was like, "I'm doing this," And there was just this sense of there was no there was no pressure on me at all. I wanted to finish. I knew I would finish. So it was just very calm, really. But I was, yeah, very. It's always that's why I want to get into London Marathon with the time, because it just would be a little
Hmm.
another little the tick
When
of
do you
that
find
link.
out?
The 8th, I think it's the 8th of December, so
Oh,
not
not
too long.
long, not
Yeah,
long.
so
Oh,
not
good
too
luck.
long.
Yeah,
I know.
fingers.
I'd love to. I mean, I'd like to do the London Marathon like everybody would, and I have tried to get into it a few times. But it was nice to go to get a goal, get that goal. So now it'd be nice to just seal it off
Hmm.
with the London Marathon. So
So we've got fingers crossed for the London Marathon. We've
yeah,
got the
everything crossed for Lanzarote.
Lanzarote coming up. Is there anything else, or is that enough to keep you busy at the moment?
Oh, well, at the moment that's enough. I mean, I am getting married next year as well, so that is a new
Oh,
thing that's come into my world. So that will be the biggest thing on next year's list. So lots of really, my life is
are you going to have to
honestly,
train on honeymoon?
well, actually, my partner is doing Ironman Wales the week before, so he's currently trying to persuade me to do that, but I'm not sure.
Oh,
So I'm not sure yet. There is a few other races that I'm going to do next year. I have booked up the Lakesman
yeah.
as well. So there is a few little races I'm going to do, but it's going to be a busy year with other things. So for me, even now with the training I'm doing, and it's a different approach. I would like everything I'm doing is very much part of my life, enjoying stuff, and I don't really want to get into the place where I'm just training for results and things like that. I'm not there. I'm quite happy doing all my fun stuff, and yeah, so that's for now anyway. If I record myself in another year, it might be completely different. But yeah,
Oh, brilliant. Oh, well, it sounds like you've got a really, really exciting 2026 to look forward to in so many
yeah.
different ways. So, oh, it's absolutely fantastic. Just to finish off as a final question, Nikki, what would you say to anybody, and they might not go on to run marathons or do anything like that, but what would you say to anybody who was kind of in the middle of just having that diagnosis, in the middle of that recovery from cancer, or I suppose any other serious illness, um, and they were looking at coming along to 5K your way or doing some form of exercise? What would be your message?
Oh, just do it. Just come along, because people always come back. I think people quite often think to themselves, "Oh, I can't go and do that because it's for runners," but it's really it's for everybody.
Yeah.
And I'd say reach out, go along. You don't have to stay, and you don't have to go back, but people always do. It's such a great community. Yeah,
And there's cake.
and there's cake, which is I don't like to say, but that is one of our selling points.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coffee and
100%.
cake.
Fantastic. Oh, Nikki, thank you so much for
Oh,
joining me
thank you.
today on Running Tales. I really, really, really appreciate your time and to hear your fantastic story. It's really inspirational.
Oh, thank you so much.
Folks, thank you so much for joining Nikki and I on this week's episode of the Running Tales podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please go and check out our previous episodes. Give us those vital likes and subscribes and all that important stuff. Go and tell all your friends when you're at parkrun and wherever you're going for a run with your run club. And check out our Substack as well. That's on runningtales.substack.com. Thanks again to Nikki for joining me today, and thank you to everyone for listening. And I will see you again next week for another episode of the Running Tales podcast.